Since I switched last year from the 1DX Mark II over to the Sony a7 III, a lot of people have been asking me questions about Sony. Hence, when yesterday Sony dropped the brand new a6400, they've been asking me, what do I think about this camera? What are the things to worry or kind of be excited about with this camera? And overall, what does this mean for now those Sony shooters? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you guys why I love this camera, and it honestly has nothing to do with the 6400 itself. What's good, creative fan? Brandon Washington here. And first of all, if you're brand new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because this channel is all about filmmaking gear, tips, and tutorials. But as you guys saw yesterday, or probably have already heard by now, Sony announced the a6400. Now, this falls into their crop line of cameras, which I honestly haven't shot with too much. My buddy Sticks has a a6300 and he has an a6500, which is ironic because this camera basically fits right in the middle of those two cameras. Now, this is a pretty good crop sensor camera as far as I can tell, but really where it really shines is in a lot of the small little details that they've added to the overall software of this camera. So for example, this camera still has the same sensor as the last one, but it does shoot in 4K at up to 30 frames per second. It shoots in 1080p at up to 120 frames per second, which I think is just amazing, especially for a camera that small and in that price range. The other thing is that one thing I honestly forgot about this camera is that this camera actually shoots on a 6K sensor and it's downsampling that to 4K. So what that means is that you're actually going to get a sharper, better looking image than you normally would out of a just typical 4K sensor. Now, it also is going to have the improved color science that Sony has been continuously working on from year to year to year. But one nice thing that Sony is actually doing is they are really adding a lot of new elements to this camera, stuff that I am excited to see. Now, I said at the beginning that the thing that most excites me about this camera actually has nothing to do with the camera itself, and that is because Sony is basically priming themselves up to get ready to release the Sony a7S III, which is honestly the Sony camera that I have been waiting for the longest time. Now, the Sony a7 III, and trust me, I own two of those now. I absolutely love those and I love what they can do, but I do know already that the a7S III is the camera that I'm most excited about for 2019. So, seeing a lot of new features being brought over to the 6400 makes me really excited for what they're going to do with that camera. For example, one of the big ones is that this new camera actually has a real intervalometer built in. So that's right, so you don't need a trigger anymore. You don't have to just use S&Q mode. You can actually take real time lapses with the intervalometer built directly into the camera. Another thing that we're seeing is that we're seeing a better source of autofocus in this camera. I mean, from the examples that I saw online, this thing looks absolutely amazing. How quickly it's able to find the subject. And don't get me wrong, the Sony does a pretty good job now using autofocus, but there are some limitations to it here and there. So seeing this new autofocus and knowing that it's just a software update even, because they're actually saying that what they're going to be able to do with the 6400, they're going to be able to do with the A9, which is a camera that's actually been out for a while. So I'm really excited to see if and when this actual update can even come to like my a7 IIIs and even maybe some a7R3s that are out there. But personally, seeing that they're continuously pushing their autofocus, intervalometers, and other things in the camera makes me really excited for what they're going to do with the a7S III. There's a lot of letters and numbers in there. I want to make sure I get it right. Now, another really big thing that happens to go with the 6400 is the fact that it does have a flip up screen. So I know there are some pros and cons to a flip up screen versus a flip out screen, but it definitely lets me know that Sony is listening. I mean, when it comes to their mirrorless cameras, they have been using the same little articulating arm screen or whatever for like the longest time, but they're actually starting to switch things up, which makes me a little bit happier. You know, if the 6400 has the flip up screen, which, you know, trust me, that's a much smaller camera and it's not really designed to be like a full shooter, so like it doesn't have a headphone jack in it for monitoring your audio, you know, things like that. You're not going to be able to use a microphone with this camera if you're using the flip up screen, because obviously it's just going to get in the way. But if you do use, like, let's say, you know, just the little windscreens on there, you can still get pretty good audio and still use this camera as maybe a B camera or a vlogging or behind the scenes type camera. Now, the reason why I'm excited about that is because Sony is saying that they are willing to change the screen, and that makes me really excited for the Sony a7S III. With the Sony a7S III, I would love to see a full flip out, fully articulating screen, and that would really just be icing on the cake for me for that camera. I mean, that is the one thing that I feel like Sony has been kind of lacking on when it comes to their cameras and their screens. But if they are willing to make changes on the 6400, I'm hoping that means that they'll be willing to make changes on the a7S III. You know, at the end of the day, the a6400 is definitely a more smaller consumer-driven type camera, obviously with the size, the battery life, the lack of in-body stabilization, just other little limitations to it. It's not designed to be that one-all-fits-all type of camera. But I think for the price, which here in America it's gonna run for about $900 body only, and especially since it's still using E-mount, that means all of your existing Sony lenses, even your full-frame Sony lenses, you could use on this camera. This might be an actually really good little B cam for anyone who's already shooting with an a7S II or a7 III or any of those type of cameras, and you want to get good quality, stay within the Sony ecosystem, but you just don't want to spend that much on a secondary body. This might be that little camera that you can bring out on set to help you out. You know, personally, I'm super excited about this camera and what this means for Sony. I'm also excited that it came out so early in the year, because that means that basically Sony has a lot of time to go ahead and push this camera. So hopefully we can see the a7S III earlier in the year. My fingers are crossed, hoping that we'll see it maybe around NAB time period, because I actually will be going to NAB this year. So hopefully it's there and I can check it out, maybe even shoot with it a little bit. We never know, we'll see what happens, but I'm really excited about that. Also, just for anybody who is in the Los Angeles area, I will actually be in Los Angeles from February 17th through the 20th, so it's a little 4-day window. But if you're in the LA area and you want to hang out, or you maybe want to get together or shoot or do anything fun, let me know, because I'll be in the area over those 4 days. I'd love to meet up with some of the creative fam. I've met up with a lot of you guys here in Houston, and it is absolutely amazing shooting and getting out and creating with you guys. So if you are in the LA area and you're down to shoot, definitely let me know. We'll make something happen. But there you have it, guys. That's my quick little take on the 6400. If you have any other questions about this camera, obviously when I get my hands on it, I'll do a full-on review for you guys. But until then, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.